plans for overseeing the agency. Vance and Gates, for their part, asked the lawmakers to keep an open mind. At the end of the day, Gates appeared to be optimistic, while the Republican senators who spoke to NBC News declined to say whether or not they would confirm the former congressman.
How have your meetings been today, sir?
Well, can we ask what your message is?
They've been going great. Senators have been giving me a lot of good advice. I'm looking forward to a hearing. Folks have been very supportive. They've been saying we're going to get a fair process. So it's a great day of momentum for the Trump-Vance administration.
Are you confident you can get confirmed by the Senate? Do you feel like
it was a great day?
Did you talk to him specifically about the allegations? Was he able to defend himself against
He was very forthcoming, but that's all I'm going to say, because he will go through a very fair confirmation process with Senator Grassley, and I think a lot of this will get fleshed out then. So I'm just reserving judgment, and I do trust Senator Grassley, of course. I love him. He's going to do a very fair job.
Well, I asked him why Kevin McCarthy hated him.
You did? What was his answer?
He said he wasn't truthful in various promises he'd made. I was just kind of curious. But he has some ideas about how the Department of Justice should be run. But basically, I just told him that he's entitled to a fair process, and most of us don't know him. All we have heard about him has been in the press, and he's entitled to have this decided in an impartial process.
Did the allegations come up at all, or did he bring that up himself, or did you bring that up?
All I said to him was that there are not going to be any secrets here. Everything's eventually going to come out. And so I frankly said transparency is a good thing, because if it keeps just dripping out little at a time, then that's going to make things more difficult.
I'm not going to be part of a process that leaks information that shouldn't be leaked. I'm not going to legitimize a process to destroy the man because people don't like his politics. He will be held to account in the confirmation process. He deserves a chance to make his argument why he should be Attorney General. As to me, I've had a history of deferring to presidential nominations. I think Matt is a very, very smart guy, and these allegations will be dealt with in committee, but he deserves a chance to confront his accusers, and the process is turning into a lynch mob, and I'm not going to be part of that.
Meanwhile, a document obtained by the New York Times shows that federal investigators have traced payments between Gates and women who say they were paid by the former congressman to have sex with him. According to the Times, the document shows how Gates and a friend sent thousands of dollars through Venmo to dozens of people who claim to be involved in sex parties from 2017 to 2020. Those people have reportedly testified to federal and congressional investigators. Sources familiar with the case tell the Times that among those who received payments was a woman who was 17 years old when she attended one of those parties. The Times reports the document, which uses thumbnail photos of Gates as well as various women and men to show how payments flowed between them, was assembled when the Justice Department was investigating Gates. Although the DOJ declined to file charges, the Times reports that the House Ethics Committee was given a copy. The chart does not show what the payments were for. NBC News, we should note, has not been able to independently verify the document. A lawyer for two women who testified that Gates did hire them for sex says their payments totaled around $10,000 and that they were typically given about $200 to $500 for each encounter. In a statement to the Times, the communications director for President-elect Trump claimed the material was classified and purposely leaked to smear Gates. But according to the Times, there are no classified markings whatsoever on the document. Gates has denied all allegations of sexual misconduct. Now, the Republican-led House Ethics Committee declined to release its own report on Gates yesterday. The group held a vote on whether to release the document, which broke along party lines. The vote did. Punchbowl News reports that an additional vote took place on whether to complete the report, which a majority of members then agreed to. Punchbowl also reports that the investigation itself is complete, but the report isn't final yet. Meanwhile, frustration within the group is spilling out into the public. Immediately after the meeting, House Ethics Chairman, Republican Michael Guest of Mississippi, told reporters that no agreement had been made to release the report and that the group will continue to meet between now and the end of the year. Those comments led to Democratic ranking member Susan Wild of Pennsylvania to issue this rebuttal.
Attention that, in fact, we had agreed that we were not going to discuss what had transpired at the meeting, but it has come to my attention that the chairman has since betrayed the process by disclosing our deliberations within moments after walking out of the committee. And he has implied that there was an agreement of the committee not to disclose the report. That is an untrue, to the extent that that suggests that the committee was in agreement or that we had a consensus on that, that is inaccurate.
The group will meet again in 2 weeks to discuss next steps on the report. In the meantime, at least 2 Democrats are offering motions that would allow the full House to decide whether or not to release the document. Joining us now, congressional reporter for The Hill, Michael Schnell. Good morning, Michael. Thanks for starting us off. So very chaotic day on Capitol Hill. Let's, of course, start with the Gates debates. Do you believe the House Ethics Committee's report will ever see the light of day, whether through an official release by the committee or because the Senate says we want to see that before we decide to vote on his position as Attorney General?
Yeah, Jonathan, the short answer is yes. I do think that the public at some point will see the findings in this report, though the big question is what you alluded to there, in what fashion does this see the light of day? A, the panel, the Ethics Committee, could ultimately vote to release the body of work. They're next set to meet on December 5th. I spoke to a source after yesterday's meeting who told me that members left with the understanding that the report would be, quote, ready by the time of that December 5th meeting, suggesting that another vote could take place then. That could potentially pass, so that's one option. B, another option is the Senate Judiciary gets its hands on this because, as we know, there are a number of senators, both Democrats and Republicans, who have said they want to look at this report and read through the materials before they vote on whether or not to confirm Gates as Attorney General. A third option is potentially the House extracting it in its own way. As you mentioned, 2 Democrats, Sean Casten and Steve Cohen, have introduced resolutions, forced votes on them to try to compel the House Ethics Committee to release its report. We're going through that process right now. We'll have to see how that ends up. And then fourth, Jonathan, which is always a possibility here, is it that this thing leaks? I've spoken to a number of lawmakers in the House on both sides of the aisle this week about this report. And some have said to me, we're in Washington, D.C. There are no secrets here. If something is to get out, it will get out. And we're already seeing a drip drop of information. Other news outlets have obtained information. We've heard from the lawyers of witnesses who have spoken to the House Ethics Committee. So to get back to your question, Jonathan, yes, I do think we will see this ethics report. The big question is, though, how will it become public?
So what do we think right now? To your reporting, reading some tea leaves, does the report, of course, hangs over all this, but do we think Gates has momentum towards confirmation, or are Republican senators even still saying, we've got reservations?
I mean, it's dicey right now. There are certainly some folks who we're hearing who have reservations. You played the clip of Mark Wayne Mullen earlier. He's saying right there that if these allegations turn out to be true, that would be problematic. But right now, we're hearing from senators that they're going to reserve judgment, that they're going to allow Gates to go through this confirmation process. But again, a lot of them, including some folks on the Senate Judiciary Committee, including John Cornyn, the top Republican on the Senate Judiciary Committee, have said that they want to see this ethics report. They want to see the body of work. They want want to read through those allegations and the findings that the committee has brought together. I will note, Jonathan, over a roughly 3-year investigation. This began in 2021, and it's been on and off since then. So right now, I think that Gates's chances of confirmation are dicey, but also senators want more information before they ultimately cast that vote about whether or not to confirm him into the position.
And Michael, lastly and briefly, you had a scoop yesterday on a new bathroom policy in the House that actually touches on some real hot button politics right now. Talk to us about it.
Yeah, that's right. Speaker Mike Johnson coming out yesterday and officially making a new policy in the Capitol that transgender women are not allowed to use bathrooms for women's bathrooms in the Capitol. Essentially, it said that same-sex facilities, including restrooms, including locker rooms, are reserved for people of that biological sex. Now, this was in response to incoming Congresswoman Sarah McBride, Democrat from Delaware. She made history this year, becoming the first transgender individual to be elected to the House. She'll be sworn in January. Congresswoman Nancy Mace sort of caused a stir earlier this week when she introduced this piece of legislation to ban transgender women from using the women's restroom. Again, it caused a stir on Capitol Hill, touching on, as you mentioned, a very hot button issue. Speaker Mike Johnson had sort of avoided the topic a little bit, dancing around it with his comments. But then, as you mentioned, he put out that official statement yesterday. Sarah McBride did respond. She said that as any member of Congress, she will abide by the rule, even though she does not agree with it. And she got back to the point that she has been reiterating all week that she came to Congress to not fight over bathrooms, but to lower costs for the folks of Delaware. So as the Gates things is going on this week, that was another big controversy in the Capitol that was playing out in both parties.
Yeah, Republicans eating up a lot of oxygen on this. The Hill's Michael Schnell, thank you as always. Next up here, Donald Trump's attorneys want his hush money case thrown out, citing the Constitution as grounds for immediate dismissal. We'll dig into their argument. Plus, 4 days of testimony leads to a life sentence in a case that became a flashpoint in the national immigration debate. We'll tell you about that, other top headlines, and a check on sports and weather when we come right back.
Dinner time distress is out.
Grocery store schleps are out.
Wallet draining delivery fees are out.
Convenience over quality is out, out, out.
Because with Cook Unity, leaving it to professional chefs is in.
Ready to enjoy weekly deliveries? Are in.
Chickpea Buddha Bowls, in.
Adobo flat iron steak,
In.
And so in.
and a big sigh of relief, that's in too.
Cook Unity, the chef is in.
What's causing the rise in book banning? On my podcast, Velshi Banned Book Club, I speak with authors of banned books to try and find out. Season 2 of Velshi Banned Book Club, all episodes available now.
I'm really thrilled that since we founded Olio to where we are today, there has been a seismic shift in terms of how entrepreneurs are thinking about the role of businesses in society. And more startup founders are wanting to truly solve the planet and our society's largest problems. And so they're really wanting to blend that profit with purpose. A question that I'm very commonly asked, which I find deeply frustrating, is whether Olio is a charity, because we seem to live in this very dichotomous world where we believe that if you're doing good, you must be a charity, and if you're large and growing quickly,